Daf Yomi, Tractate Chullin, page 44a. Top of the page with the words Mechumrei Beis Shammai and Mechumrei Beis Hillel. We were talking about whoever adopts both of the leniencies of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, that person is wicked, and then on the opposite of it, we're going to see what they say. Mechumrei Beis Shammai and Mechumrei Beis Hillel alav hakasuv oimer haksil b'choishech hoilech ela ike Beis Shammai kikuleihen mechumreihen ike Beis Hillel kikuleihen uchechumreihen. And if one who wishes to adopt both the stringencies of Beis Shammai and the stringencies of Beit Hillel, you would think he's more righteous, right? No, they say the opposite. With regard to him, the verse states, the fool walks in darkness. Ecclesiastes 2:14. Rather, one should either act in accordance with Beit Shammai, following both their leniencies and stringencies, or in accordance with Beit Hillel, following both their leniencies and their stringencies. The Gemara objects to the wording of the Braita. The Braita itself is difficult. First you say, the halacha is always in accordance with the statement of Beit Hillel. Actually, that's not exactly true. We learn in Tractate Shabbat that there are 18 exceptions to that. I think 18 exceptions? Something like that. So, but anyway, they're saying that it's always like Beit Hillel. Here they're saying that. First you say the halacha is always in accordance with the statement of Beit Hillel, and then you teach that the one who wishes to act in accordance with the statement of Beis Shammai may do so. Loi kashe. Das ist nicht kein kashe. Kan koidem baskol. Kan achar baskol. The Gemara responds, this is not difficult. Here, the statement that a person may act as he wishes was made before the divine voice emerged and announced the halacha is always in accordance with Beit Hillel. I thought we don't listen to baskols. According to Bava Metzia 59, we don't listen to baskols because lo b'shamayim he. Okay, the Gemara responds, this is not difficult. Here, the statement that a person may act as he wishes was made before the divine voice emerged and announced that the halacha is always in accordance with Beit Hillel. There, the statement that the halacha is always in accordance with Beit Hillel was made after the divine voice issued this ruling. This is a big question. Why are we saying that the Baskol is authoritative here if what we said in Bava Metzia 59 that we don't listen to Baskols? Really, we do, but just here we don't. What's it talking about? Here's talking about a case where it's not like that. I've learned Gemara enough that I know how the statement goes. Okay, so you want to do a contradiction? Generally, we do listen to Baskols. Just in that case, when it has to do with overturning, the majority, then we don't. I was mechavan this. Even after the Baskol, if you wish to say that even the statement that a person may act as he wishes was made after the divine voice announced that the halacha is in accordance with Beit Hillel, and this statement is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, who says that one disregards the divine voice that attempts to intervene in matters of halacha. According to him, the dispute between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel has not yet been decided. So you can pick either one. According to Rabbi Yehoshua, you can pick which one you want. But that would contradict another thing Rabbi Yehoshua said. Because the reason why we don't is because you have to go achrei rabim lehatot. So you cannot. So then, by his own reasoning, you would not be able to pick which side. You'd have to go after the Rabbim. No, that's only by a Bezdin, not by. If you really want to follow this thing down, its logical rabbit trails, there's going to be contradictions. B'nei obey, steers b'nei obey. It's going to be. You have to just take it for what it is. Say you're reading it. I'm reading the Talmud. You're going to find contradictions. you're going to find stuff that doesn't make sense, but you go with it. Mikol Makom Kashya, the Gemara notes, in any case, Rav's ruling is difficult. How could he rule in accordance with two contradictory stringencies in order to deem the animal a treifa? Amar Rav Tavus. Rav Tavus. I've never seen that name before. Tavut. Amar Rav Tavut. He might be a one-timer, huh? Rav Tavut. He's worth gematritizing. Right, 417 is Tavut. Plus 200 is 617. 619 is the area code of San Diego. Okay. Amar Rav Tavut, Kula Krav. Avdei Dechiyasa Rami Bar Yecheskel Amam. Lo Tatitzu Lehu HaNiklale. Dechalel Yehuda Achim Mishmed Rav. Achim Rav Veshet Nasnu Boichachobim Shiur. מכלל דתורבת סוושת לאו מקום שחיתה הוא וכאומה במשהו. Rav Tavut said, Rav acted entirely in accordance with the opinion of Rav. As when Rami Bar Yecheskel came, he said, do not listen to those principles that Rabbi Yehuda, my brother, formulated in the name of Rav. Although Rav holds that a perforation of any part of the entrance of the gullet renders an animal treifa, this is not because its location fit for slaughter. Rather, this is what Rav said. The sages give a measure to find the portion of the gullet that is valid for slaughter. By inference, one learns that the entrance of the gullet is not a location fit for slaughter. And nevertheless, he says that a perforation in any mouth renders the animal a treifa. Lima lo ad kamo Rav Nachman ad kedei tefisas yad. Lima to ad kamo Rav Nachman Rav Baravu. Since it was mentioned that the sages give a measure defining the portion of the gullet that is valid for slaughter, the Gemara asks, how far up the gullet is the upper boundary for valid slaughter? Rav Nachman said it is until the point that there remains only sufficient space for a hand to grip the gullet. The Gemara says how far down is the lower boundary. Rav Nachman said that Rabba Baravu said until the gullet becomes hairy, meaning until the opening of the rumen, whose lining is hairy. Aini, is that really so? Amar Geniva. Amar Geniva. Geniva, wow, these interesting names. Amar Avina, Amar Geniva. Mishmei de Rav. Tov Veshet Samoch Lekares. Zeu Kas Hapenim Yamai. Ki Kashachet Bekares Kashachet. But doesn't Ravina say that Geniva says, in the name of Rav, the lowermost handbreadth in the gullet adjacent to the rumen, this is the inner rumen? If so, why does Rav Nachman permit slaughter until the opening of the rumen? When one slaughters within the bottom handbreadth, he is slaughtering in the rumen, and the slaughter should be invalid. Ema tafik b'charis samach leveshet zeu charis hapenimi. Ibo yisema ki k'omar b'toira d'masir tifei. Rather say that Rav's statement should be amended as follows: the uppermost handbreadth in the rumen adjacent to the gullet. This is the inner rumen, which is not a valid location for slaughter. By contrast, the lowermost handbreadth of the gullet is a valid location for slaughter, and if you wish, say instead that when Rav says that the lowermost handbreadth of the gullet is considered the rumen, he is referring specifically to a bowl which is especially hairy, and hairs appear even within the lowermost handbreadth of the gullet itself. By contrast, in other animals, the entire lower gullet is valid location for slaughter. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel Turbat Sabeshet Shenital Kuli Bin Lechi Kosher Usna Tuno Nita Lechi Atachtoin Kosher. Rav Nachman says that Shmuel says if the entrance of the gullet was completely detached from the jaw, the animal is kosher. In the Tana of the Mishnah is also taught this later in 54a. If the lower jaw was detached entirely, it is kosher. Maskefel Pape, Ikar Simanim. If Papa objects to these, how can Shmuel say that if the entrance of the gullet is attached to the animal's kosher, but isn't there a ripping of the simanim, the gullet and the windpipe from their place? This should render the animal a treifa. The Gemara rejects, but according to Rav Papa, the Mishnah is difficult as well, since it states, if the lower jaw was detached, it is kosher. If the lower jaw is detached, the windpipe and the gullet will necessarily be detached as well, since they are attached to it. The Gemara responds, granted the mission is not difficult for Rav Papa, this halacha, that the ripping of the simanim renders that animal treifa applies only when the simanim are completely ripped from the jaw. That statement of the Mishnah that an animal's jaw is detached is kosher is referring to a case where the lower jaw is severed above its connection to the simanim, which themselves remain connected to the remaining flesh of the jaw. But the halacha that the ripping of the simanim renders the animal into treifa is difficult for Shmuel. I was talking with Shmuel yesterday. How can an animal remain kosher when the entrance of its gullet is removed? If this entails the ripping of the simanim, lo temekula. The Gemara responds, do not say that Shmuel deems the animal kosher when the entrance of the gullet was completely detached. Rather say that he deemed it kosher only if it was mostly detached. Simonim shenidan lelu merubon treifo. Rav Shisha berei de Ravidi. Hod ikpal ikpole hosom iproke. The Gemara asks, but doesn't Rabbi Bar Chana say that Shmuel says simanim that were detached and their majority render the animal treifa? Rav Shisha, the son of Ravidi, said this statement of Shmuel that the animal's kosher even if the simanim are mostly detached applies to a case in which the entrance of the gullet was peeled off from the flesh of the jaw, such that the connected tissue is concentrated in one area. In such a case, the animal might recover there where Shmuel deems the animal a treifa. He is referring to a case in which the simanim were forcibly separated from the jaw and are connected only by a few discontinuous pieces of flesh. In such a case, the animal cannot recover. Ubisukas hagalgeres tono kame psukas hagalgeres beruba. The kameruba Rav Omar. Okay, we'll turn to 44b now. Roiv oivyo v'amrilo roiv chadalo. Okay, the Mishnah states, or an animal with a cut windpipe cut across its width is a treifa. With regard to this, the sages taught, how much must the windpipe be cut to render an animal a treifa? In its majority. And how much is its majority? Rav says, turning to 44b now, the majority of its width, counting the width of the wall of the windpipe itself, the thickness of which is uneven. And some say that Rav says the majority of its space, the inner area of the cross-section of the windpipe, not counting the width of the windpipe wall. Okay, we'll stop here.